everyone, welcome to my kitchen. Today we're making a double chocolate Dubai cake. We're pairing this today with a nice strong espresso, as I think this is gonna be a pretty sweet cake. So a nice bold espresso is gonna cut through the sweetness and it's gonna be the perfect pairing. For this recipe, here's what you'll need. 260 grams all-purpose flour, 400 grams granulated sugar, 75 grams Dutch processed cocoa powder, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1.5 teaspoons baking soda, 1 teaspoon fine salt, 1 cup warm water, 250 grams full fat sour cream, half cup vegetable oil, 2 large eggs, 1 tablespoon vanilla, and a half cup small chocolate chips. We're also making 2 different types of frosting, a chocolate frosting for the outside of the cake, and then a pistachio frosting for the inside of the cake to give you that Dubai chocolate. For the chocolate frosting, you'll need 3 sticks of softened butter, 1 cup unsweetened cocoa powder, 5 cups confectioner's sugar, a half cup milk, and 1 tablespoon vanilla extract. For the pistachio frosting, you'll need 3/4 cup unsalted butter softened, 3 tablespoons pistachio paste. In this case, we're using the Dubai pistachio paste, 3 cups confectioner's sugar, 2 teaspoons vanilla, and 1.5 tablespoons of milk. All right, let's get started. This chocolate cake recipe is so easy. You don't even need a KitchenAid mixer. Everything just goes into a large bowl. This is called the dump method, but sometimes the dump method you need a mixer for. This, all you need is your whisk and your spatula and you're good. This has become my go-to chocolate cake recipe. It's super moist, super chocolatey, and I think it's gonna be perfect to hold up to the sweetness of the pistachio filling that we're putting in, and I cannot wait for you to try this. So let's start by putting our dry ingredients into the bowl and whisking those together. We'll add our flour, our sugar, our cocoa powder, some baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And we'll whisk those together until they're all incorporated. Okay, once your dry ingredients are evenly mixed through, you'll see your cocoa powder is totally mixed through when you don't see any more white from the flour. But you want to make sure you get on the bottom too. So make sure you're like digging underneath and really mixing everything evenly through. But mine looks nice and even. The cocoa powder is all throughout. And now we can start adding our wet ingredients to the bowl. So we start with 1 cup of warm water that we'll just pour right in. And then we have our 250 grams of full fat sour cream, room temperature. Everything always has to be room temperature. Just one of those weird baking things, but making sure everything is room temperature really will ensure that your cake will turn out the same every single time. Then we'll pour in a half cup vegetable oil or canola oil. I actually do use canola oil. My sister is allergic to soy, and vegetable oil has soy in it and canola doesn't. So, or apparently not, I don't know. But it's better for her. So you can use these interchangeably. Then you can go ahead and add your 2 eggs. Oops. Also room temperature. And then finally, your 1 tablespoon vanilla extract. Even though a lot of recipes call for like 1 teaspoon or 2 teaspoons, I'm a 1 tablespoon girl in every single cake. 1 tablespoon of vanilla is going in. Just punches up that flavor. All right, so before we add our chocolate chips, we are going to mix all these ingredients together and get them nice and whisked. The beauty of not using the KitchenAid mixer is that you can't really overmix this because it's just by hand. So obviously still be gentle. Don't go beating the heck out of it, but make sure you get it nicely incorporated. I'm going to take a minute and scrape down the sides and the bottom of my bowl. This mixes through so quickly and it just looks amazing already. It smells so good. I love adding sour cream to chocolate cake. I think it really helps with the moistness and just makes the perfect dense chocolate cake texture. It really is a great addition of that to this recipe. Once everything is properly mixed, you can go ahead and fold in your chocolate chips. I like the mini morsels because I think they melt really nicely into the cake, and I use semi-sweet. All right, and this cake is ready to get in the pans and go in the oven. It's so easy and quick, and thank goodness it is because we're about to do 2 different frostings. So we're really bringing through our pastry chef today. But with a little patience, it's not the hardest recipe, and I'll show you how we're gonna build this delicious Dubai chocolate cake. But let me go grab our prepared pans. I prepared 2 9-inch rounds with butter, a little bit of dusting of flour, and a piece of parchment. That always helps ensure that your cake is not going to stick. And now just pour evenly between the two pans. I'm going to do it by eye, but by all means, if you're more precise than me, go ahead and weigh it out. All right, once those are poured, they're ready for the oven. So my oven has been preheated to 350 degrees, and these will go in for about 25 minutes. I'll check them around the 20-minute mark, and then we'll see if they're ready. Let's head to the oven. Like I said before, we're gonna have two frostings for this cake. So the outside of our cake is gonna have a chocolate frosting, and the inside of our cake is what makes it the Dubai chocolate cake. The Dubai chocolate is chocolate stuffed with this amazing pistachio cream. And I was actually able to find the Dubai chocolate brand pistachio cream in the store. This brand is by B Max. But what makes this pistachio cream the Dubai pistachio is that it has the like crispy wheat flakes in it that I think it's called kadaya. If I'm so sorry, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but it makes it like crunchy in the inside. It is so stinking good. So this in the frosting is going to go in the middle of our layers of our cake. And then on the outside, what makes our cake double chocolate is that it's going to have the chocolate frosting on the outside. So I think it'll balance the pistachio really nicely to have the rich chocolate as well. Even though this cake is a little bit involved, all the steps themselves are fairly simple. So I'm going to break it down for you. We'll do this together. If you have any questions while you're making this cake, please DM me, reach out to me. I'll help you through it and we'll do it together. So we'll start off by putting the butter and the pistachio cream, the Dubai pistachio cream, in the KitchenAid mixer with your whisk attachment. My butter is also room temperature, so it's nice and soft. Always helps this process go a little bit quicker. Stuck in the bowl. I let this go on high speed for about a minute, and then I'm just gonna scrape down the sides before I let it go for another 30 seconds. All right, that looks beautiful. It got a little bit lighter in color and nice and fluffy. You can see the pretty green color from the pistachio cream in there. Now that that is nice and fluffy, we're going to add half of our confectioner sugar to the bowl and put it on low until that's mixed through, and then we'll add the second half. Once half your powdered sugar is incorporated, just go ahead and scrape down the bowl, and then we'll add our second half. This is such a pretty color, and I think the texture, the crunchy texture of this in the layers of the cake is going to be so delicious. Scraping down the bowl again. It looks really good. It's getting nice and thick and creamy. The color is so pretty. Once I've scraped down the sides, I'm going to add my milk and my vanilla. Actually, I am going to add a little pinch of salt too, just for the heck of it. But I think anything that's sweet, pinch of salt always helps. The little addition of milk that I added just really helps with the texture. It helps it get a little bit looser and creamier. So anytime I do a frosting, I try to add either half and half or milk to it. It really helps with the creaminess factor. And I just love what it does to the texture of frosting. Knock off what's on here and give it one good mix. All right, one last quick mix and this is good to go. So it looks delicious for filling. Now, when I was coming up with the concept for this cake, at first I thought I wanted to do the pistachio frosting for the whole cake. But as delicious as the color looks for a filling, I don't think this is very appealing for an entire cake. It's that like off green, kind of yellowy looking. Also, as much as I love this for a filling, it's extremely, extremely sweet with the pistachio cream. So I think the filling will be just enough. And then on the outside of the cake, the chocolate frosting is going to be not as sweet. and it'll be perfect to add to the chocolatiness to cut through the pistachio sweetness. Being classically trained in pastry has really helped me to think about what's going to balance out the sweetness, because if I were to put this all over the cake, I think it would kind of ruin the cake, because you need to have the sweet with a little bit of the bitter and that balance. And the balance is what makes such a good dessert. So now that we've done our pistachio frosting, let's go ahead and make our chocolate frosting. Now we're onto the chocolate frosting. Let's start by adding our cocoa powder to a stand mixer, or you can use your electric hand mixer. You just want to use the whisk attachment so that you can knock out any lumps that are in the cocoa powder. So loud. All right, just put that on for like 10 seconds to get out any of the lumps. All right, once you do that, you add your softened butter. I use softened, unsalted butter. I've had this sitting out for a couple of hours. We add that right to the cocoa powder, and we're gonna beat those together until nice and fluffy. Before we add the powdered sugar, we're gonna go ahead and scrape down the sides of our bowl. All right, let that go. All right, now the chocolate and the butter are nice and fluffed up, and it looks so pretty. Nice rich chocolate that I'm just getting all over my kitchen and myself. The texture should be nice and velvety, have gotten some volume from getting whisked up, and just silky smooth. It looks so pretty. Now we're ready to start slowly adding our confectioner sugar, or powdered sugar, same thing. I use them interchangeably. So I'll just do a little bit at a time, probably like a third of the bowl at a time, since I have more powdered sugar here than I did for the pistachio recipe. So I'm not going to do a full half. So just incorporate a little powdered sugar at a time so that it doesn't go all over the kitchen and make a total mess. Even though it still is kind of a messy process, to be honest. Perfect. It's ready to add a little bit more. Spill it. Cleaning my powdered sugar mess as I go. Try to keep it tidy in here. Messy baker. All right, and then our last third of powdered sugar can go in. Maybe a little bit more than I did the last time, so that's okay. Doesn't have to be precise. And then just put it on super slow because I put a lot in there. All right, now I'm gonna scrape down all my sides, give that one last whisk, and then we'll add the milk and the vanilla. All right, one more quick whisk just to make sure everything's together. Perfect, and now we add a half cup of milk, a tablespoon of vanilla, and a pinch of salt. I just like a pinch of salt for good luck for both my frostings. Okay, and mix that together. You've guessed it. I'm scraping down the sides. This is looking so delicious and silky. Put on high for another minute or so, and then we'll be good to go. All right, this looks amazing. It got light brown. It's very fluffy. It looks so pretty. Now this on the outside of the cake is gonna look much better than the pale green, weird looking pistachio cream that tastes delicious, but it's not that pretty. So this is definitely gonna look much nicer. And it's not super, super sweet. So it still has a little bit of the bitter from the chocolate. So it'll balance out the sweetness of the pistachio cream really well. Frostings are done. My cakes are cool. Let's go get this cake frosted. The cakes were in the oven for about 28 minutes. The way that I can tell my cakes are done is when you kind of bounce your hand off the top. If you don't make an indent on the cake and your fingers just gently bounce off, it's done. So that's how I knew my cakes were done. I let these fully cool. I was in a little bit of a hurry, so I actually did stick them in the freezer for like 15 minutes. That's a great little trick to quicken the process, and it really worked. They're perfectly cool. So they're ready to ice. So one thing I will say about this recipe, because I didn't use the KitchenAid, and I've noticed this every time I've kind of been making this, it does get a little bit crumbly on the edges. That is no big deal because we're gonna seal that all with the frosting so you won't even notice. And I think it's because it's such a moist cake that it's kind of hard for it to stick all together. So not a big deal. Don't fear. We're gonna fix that with the frosting and you're not going to notice when you're eating it. For my cakes, one of the showstopper tricks that I do is that I cut all of them into layers so that we have this nice stacked layer cake. So I'm going to gently cut this cake down the center all the way around, and then I'll put the slice onto the cake and we'll build from there and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's the best way to ensure a really tall cake and you get the frosting all between the layers, and it's just such an impressive thing to bring to someone's house. It's one extra step, but for such an impact. So I use a bread knife, a nice long bread knife, and I just gently put it into the center of the cake and move the plate as I move the knife so that I'm not pulling too much at the cake and I'm being very gentle. Make sure you get all the way through the center. Again, being gentle. All right. And now I'm gonna put flat side down. I'm gonna flip it for this because this is my broken piece, so this will keep it all together. Oops, that's stuck. Perfect. And now we'll start building from here. So we have our pistachio frosting that we're gonna do in the center of the cake, and then our chocolate frosting that we'll do on the outside of the cake. And because we're just doing this on the inside of the cake, we can be pretty generous with the layers because we have plenty of frosting. I'm gonna use my mini offset spatula first. How good does that look? I eyeballed about 1/3 of my pistachio frosting since I'll need 3 different layers. So it's a nice amount, a nice thick amount for the middle, but we still have plenty left for the next layers. So now we're going to add the next layer, do the same again, and then we'll cut the second cake and finish the layers. It is such a delicate cake, so it might pull up some of the chocolate cake. Don't worry about it because it'll mix into the layers and no one will ever see it. Beautiful. Perfect. Take your layer and add it to your cake. Gorge. And then our final layer of pistachio cream. Now we'll put the top on. Beautiful. It's okay if it looks a little messy right now. I'm gonna clean it all up with frosting. All right, so we have our cake. It looks gorgeous. So a lot of pastry chefs and in bakeries, they'll cut this kind of like sticky layer of the cake off. I don't mind it on. I actually kind of like the texture that it gives. And also it's gonna be covered with frosting anyway. So to me, it's no big deal. Also, whenever that gets stuck to the plate, it's always the pieces that I want to eat because it's that like extra like decadent chocolatey goodness that's just the top layer of the cake. I'm fine with it on. If you would like to trim it, you can go ahead and trim it. But by the time we put all this frosting on, you're not going to see it anyway. So this will look nice and cleaned up. So for this, I'm going to use my large offset spatula and we can start icing the sides first. This is the most luxurious icing. It's so easy. It's making a mess because I put too much on the spatula first time, but that's okay. We'll clean it. But this is so easy to frost with because it's so silky and it just glides onto the cake. This process is a little bit messy at first, but we'll get it all cleaned up and looking really pretty. Just trust the process. All right, now once you get the cake totally covered, you're gonna clean up the sides a little bit, and then this is gonna go in the fridge for about 20 minutes. This is what we call the crumb coat. So you can see there are little pieces of cake that are left over in the frosting. That's okay. That's all going to get kind of locked into the cake once you put it in the fridge as the butter hardens. And then you put on your final coat and it'll make it look really clean. So let's clean this up around the edges and then we'll go stick it in the fridge for a few minutes. So I just get a wet paper towel and stick my finger and go along the edges just to get it all clean as best you can. And then just kind of discard any of the icing that gets on your finger. And that's a great little trick to keep the plate really clean so that it looks nice and pretty. All right, this is gonna go chill for 20 minutes in the fridge. All right, so my cake has been in the fridge for about 20 minutes. I actually popped it into the freezer for 5 minutes too, so it's really nice and hard, which is exactly what I want because now we're gonna clean up this crumb coat. So you can see little pieces of the cake kind of popping through, and now this next layer is gonna cover all of that and make it look beautiful. I'm gonna use my smaller offset spatula for this since I'm doing like detail work. The big one is good for just making sure you get it all layered on. But this one, I'm going to try to make it look a little bit pretty. I try to make like a little wave pattern throughout the cake, and I'll show you what I do. I'm not really fancy with my decorations. I like it to look homemade, and I like it to look like fluffy. All right, now that I've got most of my icing on, and I'll add a little as I go, I am starting to decorate. So what I do is I do these little semicircles, and I make kind of a wave pattern that just makes it look kind of whimsical and easy. And again, it's like adding to making it look fluffy and like just you want to dig into it. So easy to do, and you just move the small offset spatula in like half moon. And it really doesn't have to have any rhyme or reason, but it really looks so beautiful. And then I'll go around the sides and I'll do the same. I think the more rustic it looks for me, the more enticing it is. I think, cakes with the fondant icing are beautiful, but they look so clean and almost like you don't want to eat it because it's a piece of art. Where is this? You just want to dig in and have a slice. All right, now I'm just going to clean up around my sides with my wet paper towel. And other than that, it's really ready to go. I think it looks gorgeous. Let's clean it up. Our gorgeous cake is ready and I cannot wait to cut into it. I can't wait to see what all the layers with the Dubai pistachio cream look like. And this is going to taste so good with my strong espresso. I can't wait to see what this pairing is like. Let's cut into it. Here we go. Look at that gorgeous slice of cake. That is so impressive. I am very excited about this gorgeous cake. I've been dreaming up this recipe for a while now. Ever since Dubai chocolate kind of took the world by storm, I've been obsessed with it. And I'm like, I know I can make this into a cake. So my double chocolate Dubai cake looks incredible. I can't wait to bite into this. So let's dig in. Now that is freaking delicious. And I think it's going to pair nicely. A little strong espresso. I just put 1 teaspoon of sugar. These are my little cute espresso cups that I got when I studied abroad in Siena. How adorable. Cleans away the very sweet pistachio filling, but the bitter chocolate too. First of all, so good with coffee, but also great with the pistachio. This cake is outstanding. Please make this. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll walk you through it. I know it was quite involved with the two types of frosting, but this was so worth it. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you back here next time. Cheers.